time for Inside Slant, all things Washington Huskies football. Adam Jude joins us here from the Seattle Times. Adam, a pleasure talking to you. Great follow on Twitter. You got all these nuggets that you're always throwing out with regard to this team. So tell me, when you're watching this football game, give me some perspective here. Just how dominant was this defensive effort?
Yeah, the Huskies have been great on defense all season, and this was definitely their best defensive performance in terms of a complete defensive performance from front to back. Anu Solomon hadn't thrown an interception all season. Huskies had 2 in the first half alone against Arizona the other night. They ended up with 4 turnovers on the night. Again, obviously a mighty impressive performance. It's a pretty young group on defense, and certainly not a lot of people expected that coming into this season, but they've continued to get better and better each week. And I think what's maybe most impressive is that they've done it against the 5 top scoring offenses in the Pac-12 so far this season. So I'd expect them to just keep rolling here into November as well.
Well, how surprised are you? Because you mentioned the expectation level for the Huskies. Considering all that talent that they lost to the NFL, for this unit to be as good as they've been so far this season, how surprising is that to you and really the coaching staff as well?
Yeah, no, I'm stunned. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. And I think if these coaches are being honest too, they're surprised as well. You know, it's a great question. It was the huge storyline here in Seattle throughout the offseason. You know, you lose a Shaq Thompson, you lose a Danny Shelton, you lose a Hauli Kikaha, all 3 first-team All-Americans last year. Again, that was the dominant storyline this offseason. How in the world are they going to replace these guys? And look what they've done. They not only have replaced them, but they've actually improved on what those guys were able to do last year. Again, I certainly didn't see it coming. And with the guys that they had coming back, you just really couldn't reasonably project that, just because we hadn't seen a whole lot of these guys yet. But the likes of Azim Victor, Keyshawn Bieria, Sidney Jones, Elijah Qualls, just a bunch of young second-year, third-year sophomores that are really coming into their own ahead of schedule. I think they've gotten more comfortable, obviously, with this coaching staff in the second year together. They just kind of understand the schemes. They know what the expectations are, and they're going out and playing hard. I know it sounds pretty simple, but that's what they keep coming back to. We're just out there playing hard, playing together. They're not selfish. They're running to the ball, and the results are showing every week.
And one of those other storylines heading into the year, because you mentioned some of the guys they lost on defense to the NFL, what were they going to do with that quarterback spot? Jake Browning probably played his best game of the season against Arizona. What's been the most impressive thing about his development as the season has progressed?
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously a guy who set the national high school record, 229 touchdown passes in high school. You knew he had a lot of stuff put together. He had a lot of tools, and I think we saw that even in spring ball when he graduated high school early and came in here. It was just physically, you know, with Jake Browning, he obviously just didn't look like necessarily a Pac-12 quarterback right away. But again, from the very beginning, we could tell that he had it put together between the years, and I think he's really shown that as the season has progressed. We also saw some new tricks. He caught his first pass on a trick play. He also ran for his first touchdown from 12 yards out. So Jake Browning, I think he surprised a lot of people as well, just with his poise, you know, his quiet leadership in the locker room. He's a guy who's very competitive. And if you ask Coach Chris Peterson, he's a really tough kid as well. I think Coach Peterson's quote this week was, "Don't let those schoolboy looks fool you." I mean, he's a really tough kid. Obviously, you expect sort of the sky's the limit for him going forward.
Well, it's a huge test against Utah because they're one of the better teams in the country. Chris Peterson said on Monday of Utah, quote, "They don't have a weakness." So explain it to me. Offensively, how do they move the ball against a defensive unit that is right there with UW in terms of being one of the top ones in the conference?
Right. It's going to be a great challenge for these guys. It's going to be interesting because, as we know, Arizona has struggled on defense this year. They've been really banged up, missing a lot of their key guys. So the Huskies were able to take advantage of that, obviously, this last week. But definitely a different test. I think this Utah defense, like you said, is a lot like the Husky defense that this offense faces every day in practice. So, no, I'm curious to see how Browning is able to come back after a great performance like that, how this offensive line is able to do the next week, because it is a different story against a really physical and aggressive Utah front as well. Huskies' offensive line has been banged up this year. They've started 9 different offensive linemen, and those guys only had 15 games of starting experience coming into this year. So they're a very young group as well. It's the youngest offense in UW history. So these guys, as you would expect, have had their ups and downs this season. But I think as they head into November here, they're obviously hoping for more consistency and less of the roller coaster. And so if Browning can, continue to not make mistakes, not turn the ball over, if they can continue to run the ball like they have the last few weeks, I think they do have a good shot here Saturday.
All right, well, what's the coaching staff and some of the people around this program saying about trying to bottle up a Devontae Booker?
Yeah, not going to be easy. Again, I think the one maybe small advantage the UW defense does have is that they have played a lot of elite backs already. They saw Oregon's Royce Freeman a few weeks ago. They saw Christian McCaffrey down there at Stanford, and both guys had good games against UW, but they weren't, necessarily breakout elite level games that you've come to expect of those guys. And I think Booker is right in that group. Maybe kind of a mixture of both those guys, Royce Freeman and McCaffrey. Huskies are obviously, their priority is going to be to stop that run, and again, they've been pretty good at it most of this season, and I wouldn't expect anything less Saturday.
Well, considering what we thought this football team was going to be at the start of the season, I think it's time to tip the cap to Chris Peterson, the job he's done with this Huskies program, because they have played very good football over the course of these first few weeks of the season. Adam, really appreciate you stopping by with us as always here on the Pac-12 Network.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.